Hello everybody and welcome to the Showcast, a series of candid conversations from the world of film brought to you by the Film Verdict and hosted by yours truly, Matt Micucci. The International Film Festival Rotterdam is a globally renowned event celebrating bold and innovative cinema, showcasing diverse voices and cutting-edge storytelling from around the world. This year's edition will take place from the 30th of January to the 9th of February, and tonight we bring you a conversation with its Festival Director Vanja Kaludjercic. We're turning to the TFE network to offer a preview of this year's programme, its shape and structure, as well as some of its most stimulating offerings and amazing guests. So fire up an Audio Teeny and listen to the audio waves as they fly through the air. This is the Showcast. Hello, Vanja. Welcome to the Showcast.
Hello, Matt. It's so great to be back, actually, because I remember us. It's been 1 or 2 years that we spoke together on this podcast, right?
Yeah, it's been 2 years. One of the first interviews we actually uploaded on the TFE network, and we're still going strong, you know. And so I'm happy now because back then we were speaking just as the IFFR of that year had ended. Now we get to talk about what will be coming up for this year's edition of the IFFR, edition 2025, which will be, correct me if I'm wrong, running from January 30th to February 9th. Those are the dates. But, you know, let's start off simple. And, you know, just for anybody who may not ever have been to the IFFR, I like to just begin by not leaving them out. And it's a very simple question. In your opinion, what is it that makes the International Film Festival Rotterdam stand out?
Where to begin, I have to say. It's a festival that has a very long legacy. I think this is really one of the key things to underscore. It exists for 54 years. And it's really a festival that has grown and with its city, cultivated its audiences for 5 decades. So with very adventurous film works, right? So that are ranging from sort of the most avant-garde and experimental and unconventional to the countries and cinemas that you have never had a chance to see before, to something far more popular and genre-driven. So it's really a festival that embraces cinematic languages in all its shapes and forms. And it's really putting the works next to each other in ways that you could never imagine that such, you know, in the same competition or in the same program, you could encounter those works as well. And then another thing about IFFR, I think it's really, you know, the way how it embraces the audiences, the informal character of the festival as well. It's really one of the biggest festivals there are. But nevertheless, when you come to Rotterdam, whether you're just a starter and enthusiast or wanting to be a film professional or already a filmmaker with a film program or an audience member, everybody gets embraced in the festival in the similar way. There is a very democratic feel to it. There are no red carpets at IFFR. There, you know, we all share the same spaces. We all go to the same events. So in that regard, it feels very fortunate to be part of it, you know, when you join IFFR, because the value that this festival can give you because of this atmosphere, you know, the value of informal encounter and where and how do you meet people and start exchanging with them can bring you so much. So this is really one of the things that I love about IFFR ever since I visited the festival for the first time, long time ago. It was in 2003. And this mission that, you know, the festival has since its inception in 1972, when Hubert Bal started the festival, it was really that we are here for those filmmakers, those voices, those cinemas that do not get so much exposure, you know, otherwise. And that remains really at the heart of IFFR, being there for those emerging filmmakers, especially through our competition strand, Tiger Competition or Bright Future, that it's there for really first-time filmmakers, to really spending years, you know, the whole year with the programming team, looking at the map of cinema, the map of the world, actually, and thinking about which national cinemas have a lot of exposures, which types of cinema have none, and what can we then do for them? You know, in a way, we are really asking ourselves that question as well. One of the big values for me always at IFFR was that as much as it looks to the future and it is in the present, right, there is a big part of the festival that looks into the past, and in a way that it allows us to really understand that the history is very much alive, and how we are looking at it from the contemporary point of view is extremely crucial, you know, in recalibrating, you know, the idea of what the canon of cinema is, how we are positioning ourselves toward it, how we are filling it in with some holes that we all have collectively. When I would invite people to come to the IFFR for the first time, that would be really one of the key things to bring them in, because the way how we curate our special programs or Cinema Regained, always is trying to seek a new lens of how are we looking at things, and that can really open up many new perspectives.
Well, thank you for that. One of the words you used in describing the IFFR is adventurous. It's adventurous programming. There's so much for people to discover. So my next question then, quite naturally, is in terms of the program, in terms of the films that will be screened, the works that will be presented, what's in store for this year's edition?
Where to begin? Big questions again, because we have a program that it's about 80 films in total, but these are not all, as I said, new production or feature films only, because it's also important to know, and actually goes back even to the first question, that a big part of IFFR is dedicated to short and mid-length film form, the filmmakers that either continuously develop their career, especially in avant-garde and experimental cinema in a short film form, but also a lot of filmmakers, who come to, get inspired, show their works, meet their crowd, also get inspired, start developing their feature projects as well. So pretty much half of the program, when I mentioned this number, goes to short filmmakers. And what is in store, where to begin? Because, of course, what always delights us is this creation of competition strands. So it's Tiger features and shorts and big screen. And in Tigers, you are always going to find films that are from the emerging filmmakers, whether it's first, second, sometimes third film, but mainly first and second, in which we can really recognize such a distinct language of cinema being developed already from those filmmakers. Films do not necessarily are all very unconventional. They range. So you have films from very crazy, idiosyncratic animation from Mexico to amazing film from Austria that is examining the period in the 80s of an exiled Czechoslovakian having to go back to her home country to encounter her past, to great presence this year of films from a Yugoslav region. We have, for the first time in Tiger competition, one film from Montenegro, and then another one from Croatia next to a Serbian film. So really, like, such an array of amazing talents that we can't wait to be sort of sharing, to come to this moment when you start sharing that with the audiences and films as of, IFFR start traveling around the world. And in that regard, counter competition to that is big screen, which is dedicated to more, let's say, like how we like to put it, timeless forms of cinema, where you have very classical works being presented, films that can span themselves from sort of intimate dramas. Like we have a first-time filmmaker there as well, Micucci van den Weerberg, with her Belgian first feature, Soft Leaves, which is a family drama where two worlds from Japan and Belgium come together in coming-of-age drama, to films that explore unknown parts of Indonesian history, quite recent history. There's a film from Hanung Bramantyo called Go Walk, Javanese Kama Sutra, that is exploring in a part of Indonesian history that has been kind of buried and only recently coming to surface, also intertwined with the political situations from the 60s and a few decades onwards until the 80s. So, we have this range of films that really sort of, when they come next to each other, they really create a dialogue between themselves that it's something that we find always very exciting. So I would always invite viewers, to sort of audiences, members and professionals, to come and sort of check what's going on in the competitions, short films included, and then take a deep dive in whether it's our main program, which is Harbor, which in a way it's the largest section of the festival, because in a way, the way how Harbor is constructed, it's a sphere in which the whole festival is reflected in it. Here you can find returnee filmmakers from, Albert Serra coming back to Luye, who, with Suju River was here a long time ago, to, array of Japanese films or films from pretty much all over the world that, unless you come to IFFR, there's no way, unless you're in those respective countries, obviously, you're going to get a chance to see them. And of course, Limelight is always there too, with these bigger and more popular works that bring larger audiences in. So it sounds daunting because it's a lot of films and a lot is happening. So of course, the ability to see and cover it all, of course, there is no such thing. But what I would always say, go to things that you find that can, that makes you curious about discovering them. And what happens then at IFFR very often, and this is also the quality of the festival I like, is that you get to encounter so many people, whether it's in the screenings, when you're sitting next to each other and hearing people talking about films, whether it's at a party or in an industry event you're attending, you're going to hear about so many things that you want to discover. And that's how, big part of your program, in a way, it's going to get filled. And there's one thing about IFFR that it's really quite special, that has been cultivated since mid-90s, and that's back in the day it was called cinema, exploding cinema. Today it's called art, has sort of morphed and evolved into arts directions, and this is an umbrella name for a program that is covering everything that is not happening on a film screen, essentially. Because long time ago, IFFR was really not rigid when it comes to this idea of what, how cinematic art can be shown or displayed, right? Already back in the 90s, started sort of showing, installations, exhibitions, performances, interventions in a public space that celebrate cinema in its sort of incredible variety, right? So today, when I look at the program of art directions, which has really grown into something very substantial and bringing audiences and professionals from very different spheres together. It makes me really proud, because the artists and filmmakers, because often we have filmmakers who venture into installations or exhibitions or immersive storytelling and vice versa. And this kind of not blurring that line or making it completely seamless is of high importance to us as well. So there is so much to discover. And then there are, of course, special programs, but maybe that's your next question, and then I can dive into that.
Right, because when I asked about the films, and I also made sure to ask you about the works being presented, because it's not just films, really. We've got immersive storytelling, and then there's exhibitions. There's always so much going on in Rotterdam at the IFFR. There's a lot of showcasing of the interaction between the cinematic art and other art forms, which I always found great. We talked about the program always being adventurous. We talked about the importance of showcasing these works from the past as well as from the present times. These are crazy times, and I know that the IFFR will showcase some excellent works that will encourage dialogue, which is another thing that the IFFR is all about. And obviously, you need to have the right people to encourage the right dialogue as well. So I know that the IFFR always has great guests showing up. So who are the top guests of this year's edition?
Ooh, I don't know where to begin. There are so many again.
Because that's an uncomfortable question. You can't leave anybody out, right?
Well, it will be a long podcast then, because, when I start diving into this filmmaker and then that, I get really excited, because I want for listeners and audiences to really, get to meet everyone that, comes to the festival and is presenting their amazing works. But what we can perhaps start with are also the talks, because the way how we organize our talks also very often is in form of dialogue. So we have two very prominent either filmmakers, artists, people who are, excellent in their own domain, coming together in a dialogue with each other, because they're not then only sharing, their own expertise, but building together. As you said, it's a place of exchange and conversation. So hearing, this expertise coming, together and being shared with the audience is really something that is one of a kind and can often create this type of insights that unless you were there, and being present in it, otherwise you would never get them. So in that regard, of course, I think the guest that has traveled the world immediately that they're coming to Rotterdam was, of course, Cate Blanchett, who is joining Guy Madden this year in a conversation about their collaboration on Rumors. But more than that, they both share a great passion to support short filmmakers, because Cate is also this year we're going to be world premiering a short film, Bows Over Roses, in one of our short and mid-length compilations. This is in a way part of what motivated them both to be at Rotterdam, not only to discuss then the Rumors, but also to advocate to support of filmmakers who are working in a short film form, because Guy is repeatedly going back to that format themselves. So it's not only a first step into coming into feature filmmaking, but also it's sort of vital to be exploring sort of different creative outputs and angles that we would like to experience as filmmakers or as actors. And given that IFFR is such a strong and big ambassador for short film community, I find that really important. And then people like Albertina Carri, for instance, coming to IFFR this year with her film Caigan La Rosas Blancas, which will be in big screen competition this is wonderful because she's coming back, after being a few decades, a while ago with her first film in Tiger competition. So having this kind of circle is also wonderful. And she's a powerhouse in her own right, and, queer trailblazer. And coming together with Cheryl Dunier, who is also going to be joining us at the festival, is really one of the sort of conversations and encounters that I really I can't miss. I mean, I'm so curious and excited to hear what the two of them are going to be talking about. And then having a person like Costa Gavras, who has his new film coming, Le Dernier Souffle, that he's going to be presenting at IFFR, but also the reason why next to presenting this film, he will also be talking about his work in archives and preservation of film, because his very prominent role next to being a filmmaker is also president of La Cinémathèque Française, and interviewed by Frédéric Maire, who again comes from the Swiss Cinematheque, which is one that we work a lot with for our Cinema Regain program and restoration. So it's always, in a way, when you look at our guests, it's such a wide array of people that are coming to the festival. What I like to see are disconnections that we're creating between different programs. That whether it's a special program or Cinema Regained or something in a regular program, there's always a connection of how things are, complementing each other. And this is really that cohesion and balance of the program that we are looking at. Of course, I'm incredibly proud that Miike Takashi is coming back, because, Miike, while he was already a big figure decades ago in Japan, internationally, he was not that known. And it was really through the ways of IFFR that he, got this bigger international stage and became such a, cult figure and a filmmaker, also somebody who redefined the idea of what genre cinema can be, and something that we always remained very loyal to when, exploring, asking ourselves the question what cinema can be. Because next to him, when I speak more about sort of genre and popular filmmaking, we have also Joseph Kahn coming to IFFR with his incredible film, horror comedy Ick, that I really hope masses will see, because it really deserves that attention. And he will be in a dialogue with Stefan Haars, who is quite a known figure here in the Netherlands, with the filmmaking duo Stefan and Flip, that last year they had this film Crazy House, that is really showing a completely different side of what Dutch filmmaking can be and how crazy it can get. We often joked and called it, this is, avant-garde, popular avant-garde, because that's how inventive, his cinema can get. And then, of course, another special program that we have, I didn't even get a chance to talk about them, but maybe we'll get there, is on VHS culture and creation of VHS culture worldwide. And in context of that, Alex Ross Perry, US indie filmmaker with many excellent works under his belt, will be presenting a world premiere of his film called Video Heaven, that it's been in the making for about 10 years. And he's presenting two film Payments, the doc that was presented in Venice, and Video Heaven. And he will be entering in a conversation with Peter Strickland, who is, again, one of the most original voices in contemporary filmmaking, who will be here at IFFR as a Tiger jury member.
Yeah, it would take a longer time to actually get through it in more detail, but I really feel like with this conversation and with your generous answers, people will be able to understand and get an idea of what will be happening in Rotterdam this year. It sounds awesome. And thank you very much for joining us and speaking with us about it. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you so much, Matt. It's always such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for joining our latest episode of the Showcast. I also remind you that the 2025 edition of the International Film Festival Rotterdam will take place from the 30th of January to the 9th of February, and that you'll be able to find out more about it on its website, IFFR.com. For more stimulating conversations from the world of film, don't forget to follow us wherever you get your podcast from, or visit us anytime at filmverdictnetwork.com. Till the next time, from The Film Verdict, this is Matt Micucci signing off. See you soon.